Nigel, morning. So Saturday's game called off, the frustration starting to mount.
Yeah, of course, with the players when we've only had the one game in about 4 weeks now, but nothing we can do about it. I think we've just been unlucky the way we've dropped with the weather. I think back 2 weeks ago it was the frost, the first Bolton postponement, and we wanted to leave it until as late as possible, but the referee wanted to make a decision because they were travelling at 1:30. I think we'd have played that night if we'd have been allowed to leave it until sort of 6:30, something like that, because it was thawing all the time. And then we offered to play the next night, which I know quite a few teams do, just postpone it 24 hours. We could have played then. Bolton said no to that. Can't do anything about the game at Warsaw, that's out of our hands. And then we come to the rearranged one against Bolton. The deluge we had about 4 or 5 o'clock on that Tuesday night. It wasn't just us. Rotherham were called off that night, Championship pitch. Chesterfield were off, Notts were off, even Salford. It reached up that far. So there's nothing you can do about that. And then Saturday it came down again overnight, Friday night, and on an already soaking pitch. There's nothing anybody can do about that. We're desperate to get the games on. The ground staff are working night and day to try and improve it, and and to get the games on as well. And even on Saturday, Barnsley's off, just half an hour up the road. So it's not just us that's been affected by it. It's just been too intense, the rain.
The pitch, of course, isn't at its usual standard, as it has been in recent seasons. Are the factors, therefore, as follows? The worst weather we've experienced in the past decade, and also, because of the COVID pandemic, work was unable to be carried out in the summer months.
Yeah, I think that's every club in the country just about had that same problem. When the season shut down in March, and nobody could say how long for, you're faced with a huge dilemma, and they were saying, it might be a couple of months. So you can't then go and undertake renovations on your pitch that might take sort of 10 or 12 weeks, because you can't then play on it. So everybody was just waiting and waiting. Nobody could make a decision because nobody knew then. And that's why a lot of the pitches are suffering now. I saw a picture of Scunthorpe's on Saturday. That wasn't just waterlogged, that was absolutely flooded underwater. And I think there's an awful lot of teams suffering with the same sort of problems. Leeds have had to relay theirs, in the Premier League. And even the pitches at the highest level, I think, are showing signs of wear and tear. Because we're playing on them more as well, we're a shortened season, and the weather in January has just been so wet.
The club's ground staff, I'm sure you'll agree, have come in for some undue and unfair criticism. Can they do any more, or is it just a case of waiting for a break in the weather?
It's just waiting for the break. There's not much when we've got snow on it, snow on it now, and we've had torrential rain. There's only so much you can do, and when there's a couple of underlying problems because the work wasn't undertaken, which is nobody's fault, there's nothing more they can do. We had 10 people working on the pitch from 8:30 in the morning last Tuesday. They're doing everything they can, and then the rain just comes at 5 o'clock. And all work that they've done is just sort of made irrelevant.
As I understand it, there's a bit of a myth at this moment that there's an issue with the drainage at the one called Stadium Pitch, but that's not the case, is it? What discussions have you had with the groundsman on that basis?
Well, it's not really the water. Some of the water's not getting down to the drains. It's just this top sort of layer. You get the top few centimetres, and if that sort of builds up over a season and a bit, then it just becomes like a sponge, really, and then the water can't get through it. So it's just sitting on the top there. And even the games we did play, I think against Salford, one of the last home games, it was quite heavy then. And then you get all the rain that we've had. Everybody's got here has got a lot of sympathy for them. The ground staff, they're doing everything they can.
And in terms of the football, Nigel, as the backlog extends now in terms of fixtures, are you satisfied that you've got the personnel, the numbers in your squad to cope with what's coming?
I hope so. We're still going to, we're a couple of games down now or whatever. One of the nice things is we haven't moved far in our league position, and yet we've got 2, 3, 4 games in hand on some teams around us, so we've got scope to improve that. I just hope this break will sort of benefit us rather than harm us. I hope that players are relaxed and rested as much as they can be when you're still preparing for games, and they don't pick up knocks and niggles when we do get back into it. That's the biggest fear, I think. You're okay for the first 1 or 2, but I think we're playing 6 consecutive Tuesdays now. That will take its toll, but happy with the squad and happy with the numbers.
With that said, because of the break that you've had, might it take your players some time to get back into the swing of it?
Yeah, I think so. We're not too particularly concerned about the first one. I think it's the 2 or 3 after that, maybe. It's like when you come back from injury, you're absolutely flying on the first one. You just can't wait to play again. And I think we're at that stage. But then after that, it catches up a little bit with you. But we'll just see. We've got enough to make a few changes if we need to and rotate things a little bit. Although we're not great fans of doing that, we just put our best team that we think is going to win the game on the pitch.
And in terms of the weather, not only here in Mansfield but further afield, we're set for a freezing week, quite literally.
Yeah.
Have you been in contact with Nigel Clough or anybody at Walsall heading into tomorrow's proposed match?
No, I will be today, and just seeing that, I know he'll be doing everything he can to get it on. They were postponed on Saturday as well, so down at Southend late on, so they'll want the game on. And I think that the only good thing with having no crowds is we can be quite flexible with kick-off times. And I'm sure Walsall, if we need to play it a little bit earlier to avoid the freezing temperatures into the evening, we'll do that.
There's been much good news, Nigel, elsewhere coming from the club in recent weeks and months, the latest of which came on Friday evening by way of a double deal, new contracts for Kellen Gordon and Harry Charsley, two of your younger players. Your comment on that, if you please.
Yeah, we're delighted to secure the services, and two of our young players have committed the future, immediate futures to the club, and I think that's always good news for everybody here and supporters and everything. So I think Kellen's come into the team. I think Coop's put him in just before we got here, and he's just about stayed in been ever present since then. Missed one or two games, but I think he's done very well. A young player, last year he was out with injury. He's come back strong now, and he's established himself as our first choice right back and played very well. And Harry on the right hand side, adapted to his new position, gives us that flexibility to be able to play inside as well. Got a couple of goals, and his work rate has been very, very impressive indeed, and I think they've made a good partnership out there on the right hand side.
Hope to see you tomorrow in the West Midlands. Thanks, Nigel.
Yep, thank you.